Testing.
Work.
Good evening, everyone. I'm calling this regular meeting of the Village Board to order at 7 p.m. This meeting has been given public notice in accordance with Section 19.83 and 19.84 Wisconsin statutes in such form that will apprise the general public and news media of subject matter that is intended for consideration and action. Roll call is showing all trustees present. Now I'd like to have you stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We are now on to the President's Report. Good evening and Happy New Year, everyone. I can't believe it's 2026. I'd like to share what has been going on since my last President's Report update from December 15th of last year. I hope that everyone had a wonderful holiday season and a very happy start of a very good new year. At the Soderberg household, we had a full house. Hotel Soderberg, as we call it, was officially open for the week. We had 10 occupants, 2 grandchildren, and 4 dogs. I've never seen so much food being eaten, stuff being left around the house, dirty laundry, and of course, the trash. It's like that every year. I wouldn't change a thing as I love it. I do hope that whatever you did over the holiday season, that you too made wonderful experience and had some fun, and that you recharge your batteries for the coming year. Again, Happy New Year. In my News You Can Use section, there are several updates. With the upcoming April election for village trustees, we have several openings available for those that want to serve their community. I would first like to congratulate Trustee Rick Miller for his announced retirement from the board and to recognize him for his many years of service to our community. Trustee Kristen Borst also announced that she will not be running. I want to thank her for her service to our community as well. You both will be missed. For those that want to serve our community, please visit the village's website for the opportunities available, but know that the clock is ticking as the paperwork and the required 20 signatures have to be into the clerk's office by 5 p.m. tomorrow. On December 16th of last year, and after our last village board meeting for the year, I attended the chief elected officials quarterly meeting at the Washington County offices in West Bend. On the agenda was a discussion on creating a countywide fire and EMS strategy that would allow the county to issue new taxes per state law. The reason for going down this path are many, but it will assist municipalities like Germantown with increased operational costs year over year, as well as address the growing need for EMS fire services with qualified staffing levels at municipalities, and adding staff while keeping communities under state-imposed levy limits is becoming challenging and somewhat impossible. I am open-minded to this, and this village board will discuss further at our next village board meeting. But if we do participate, we could lower our tax levy for fire and EMS by approximately $4.7 million to lessen the tax burden on our taxpayers. We could possibly include non-operational costs such as appreciation on assets, such as a new firehouse construction, and on current and future fire apparatus. Please know that the county will not only levy our costs of $4.7 million, but levy costs from other municipalities within the county and levy more to fund increased costs associated that we are all expecting. The bottom line is that this will not be a year-over-year tax savings, but more than likely will be a tax increase. More will be learned in an upcoming meeting later this month on January 26th. So stay tuned, and please know that we will put the taxpayers first, along with maintaining local control. At the Economic Development Committee meeting last month, they discussed, among other things, Operation Storefront, where the members reviewed a recently compiled report on inventory of known vacant retail sites in our community. This was the first time that a report like this was created, with the goal, of course, being to create opportunities to backfill those sites with future businesses. There is more to do with this initiative, but I welcome the attention that this is getting. Also, please know that I am personally reaching out to the building owners and their representatives to ask them what the village can do to create opportunities for them. This too is being well received by them, with one commercial leasing agent commenting that I applaud your initiative and wish every village, city, town would do this. Moving on, this evening, our village board agenda includes some important matters that include approval of a contract for design and construction inspection services related to Firehouse Number 2 remodel and expansion, and an ordinance to amend Chapter 2 of the Municipal Code relating to rules and regulations for the governing body in the post-COVID era. The GGF also reviewed this at their meeting last month, which is why it is on our board agenda this evening. In closing, I want to wish you all a very happy and healthy New Year. I'm looking forward to our meeting this evening as we work together to move Germantown forward and to make our community a better place to live, work, and play. Thank you. We are now on to item 5, the announcements of forthcoming events of public interest, committee, and department reports. Trustee Kaminsky.
Public Works will meet in this room this upcoming Wednesday at 5:30 p.m.
Trustee Rick Miller.
General Government and Finance will meet on January 19th in this boardroom, 5:30 p.m.
Trustee Meg Cutts.
Public Safety will meet in this room Monday, February 2nd at 6 p.m.
Thank you. Would any other chairs or like to comment? Trustee Jen Miller.
Good evening. The Economic Development Committee will meet next Tuesday in this boardroom at 6 p.m., January 13th, Tuesday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would any other trustees like to say anything? Okay, now on to item 6, citizens input. Would anybody like to come forward tonight and speak? You've got 4 minutes. Good evening and welcome. SIU. SIU. WIU.
Is this on? Is this on? Okay. I'm sorry. Doug Lohman, W180N9881, Rivers Bend Circle West. I want to comment on reading into the record citizens' inputs via means that are not done publicly, and that's being brought up tonight. I want to share with the board that personally, I want to know what my fellow neighbor, fellow resident has to say to the board. I want to hear that part of the conversation. This was, I believe it was GGF that it got brought up to, was the committee that it got brought up in a couple weeks ago. And Trustee Kaminsky said that, made the comment that reading the comments could be done, it could take up from 7 o'clock to 10 o'clock. And that she put that as a negative. I want to tell you all, I see that as a very positive thing. That's evidence of healthy democracies. Your constituents are taking actions and being part of the process. That's my view on that. I'm kind of surprised I'm going to be saying this, but you are representatives. You represent friends, families, neighbors, people that you don't like. Don't worry, some of them don't like you too, but don't worry about that. Representation has the inherent, inseparable quality of building and developing communication. This is an essential part of this. Please vote against doing this. I want to make, real quickly, I want to comment on qualified immunity. I know nothing about the case that's going to be brought before the board today, but I do have some thoughts on qualified immunity. And basically, I believe that I think qualified immunity is necessary, but our laws clearly need to be reformed. As it stands now, a village, county, the state, non-human entities are allowed to do things that we would never allow a human entity to do because of the way qualified immunity laws are here today. Please keep that in mind when you listen to the case tonight. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for coming. Would anybody else like to come forward and speak tonight? Good evening and welcome.
Okay, Melanie Smythe, N140W17938 Cedar Lane. Good evening and Happy New Year. I always like this time of year. It's a good time to shed some bad habits and pick up some new ones. So I'm going to ask that the village board consider having a feature where there's a budget update on a monthly basis, and that is provided by the GGF committee. One of the things that when I first started coming to these meetings 4+ years ago, I commented on several times is that the committees are in silos, and the committees are making decisions that will affect future budgets and future tax levies. And so this is why some of us in the audience here requested the 5-year capital plan so that we could then see what are the things that need to happen in the village. And we have asked that for projections of the 5 years worth of taxes, which we received last GGF meeting. I think it was the 15th of December, if I'm not mistaken. And for those of you who were not at the GGF meeting, I would suggest that you go back and look at that video. There were some of the trustees who were a bit shocked at what was on those sheets. Now, obviously, it's just a snapshot and it's not the final thing, but I'm hopeful that when Baird comes on board, a proper version of this will be done. And it should include all of the information about the village finances and how the effects of anything that happens if you're a resident, whether it's in the suburban area or the rural area, and you are on utilities, you're not on utilities, you pay taxes, you don't pay taxes, but other fees, I should say. What does that look like? What is the quality of life? What is the quality of life going to be in 5 years when that 100 million plus of expenditures, it's going to be plus when you throw in that new fire station that we keep talking about. What's that going to do to the taxes? We saw the beginnings of that, and I'm grateful to everyone who put that work in for that. But we need we need a better picture, and we need to have committees engaged and understanding what their actions are when they're making decisions about things and what that will do to future levies and future taxes and future quality of life for current people living in here, in this village, businesses, and people who want to move here. So that's that one. The other thing is, I was a little confused about at the public safety meeting, excuse me, about the contract structure. It seems, I don't really understand how many contracts there are going to be. I'm asking that the Chief Delane come up and be allowed during the presentation, describe a little bit about how that's going to work. In an offline conversation, he said that the construction management firm would be RFP'd, which is great. We need independent oversight. We don't want to have a change order situation, which is what I understand happened with the DPW. People's wants and desires kept getting added and added, and it just sort of happened and it grew. So we don't want that because now we know we're in trouble with our 5-year projections. Those are my comments. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Would anybody else like to come forward tonight and speak? Do we have anybody on WebEx that would like to speak? And I do know that we have some written comments.
Yes, we have some comments that were submitted by email. The first is from Sarah Larson. I strongly disagree with wanting to eliminate reading comments submitted using the comment form. I know that all board members will not see and or read them prior to the meeting, especially if submitted on the day of the meeting due to holding full-time employment. If you elect to proceed with not reading them into the meeting, then I believe the following should be done. Have agenda item for voice vote confirming all submitted comments were read by trustees prior to the meeting. If a trustee indicates no, then they should abstain from voting on any matters in which the comments pertain. And 2, all submitted comments be included in the meeting minutes for the public to review. Another alternative to a voice vote is requiring trustees to send a confirmation email to the sender prior to the posted meeting time acknowledging they read it. Should they then vote on a matter and citizen shows no individual acknowledgement received, the item would be required to come back to the next board meeting for reconsideration. Thanks. Citizens should have full confidence that their thoughts and concerns have been received and considered. The next is from Tamara Schneider. Village board members, I am writing regarding the final agenda item for tonight's meeting concerning the proposal to shorten the length of village board meetings. I have previously advocated for more efficient meetings as many extend late into the evening. In that regard, I understand and support efforts to manage agendas more effectively and limit the number of items scheduled for discussion. However, I would like to emphasize that any changes made to meeting length should not diminish opportunities for citizen participation. This includes in-person comments during meetings and written comments submitted to be read aloud by the village president. It is essential that village residents continue to have meaningful opportunities to voice their concerns and perspectives. Village residents contribute to the community through their taxes, which fund new initiatives, ongoing projects, and the salary of village employees. As such, our voices and our financial contributions should be respected and carefully considered when decisions are made. In summary, while I support efforts to streamline meetings by limiting agenda items, I strongly urge the board not to limit public comment on matters that directly affect how taxpayer funds are used and how the village is governed. Thank you for your time and consideration. Respectfully, Tamara Schneider. There were two emails that were submitted by the Schneiders. The first said, please, we would like you to read the comments that was sent back to us from Mr. Krecklow at the upcoming village board meeting. Reading the comments sent in does not make the meetings long. It is what put on the agendas if it a hot topic. We aren't happy about Mr. Krecklow comments. This is due to you having him read the comments. Don't know, this is part of his job if you ask him to do so. If you truly believe the board will vote to keep on reading comments, so be it, but we don't. But we know already who will vote against it. Not sure if you are aware, but we have been watching since fall of 2018. This is when the board sitting around trying to come up with a way to have more money come into the village. They had no money back then too. They decide that they might try to charge to use recycling center, the old dump. As you know, that didn't fly. Yes, the former president did read our email. That was like the only one ever read at the time. If they had the recording from back then, you would see not anyone would be in at the meetings unless it was a hot topic, then the room would be packed. Please let us know if you will read the comments sent to us from Mr. Krecklow or not. What about our rights to speak about an issue? How do we know if the whole board reads them or not? Once again, assume we know some do, but not sure if all do read them. But it is okayed for verbal attacks on a trustee from another trustee. That does not drag out the meetings. Thank you for your time. Happy New Year's to you and your families, the Schneiders. The second one was from the Schneiders. Hello, Happy New Year to you and your family. On the agenda tonight is about reading of comments sent via email at the last meeting. No comments read in until after the meeting was done. Also, the recording was turned off by then. There was 2 comments sent in to be read. It took less than 4 minutes of time for this to be done. So you are saying this is making the meetings too long. Even if you had more to read, it does not make the meeting go on for 3 to 4 hours long. It is what is on the agenda. Also thought the board and administrator is to be transparent on everything. How do we know that everyone does read the emails? It was said in an email reply back to us from the village, can't make and or tell them what to read. So we are paying taxes to have things run in the village. We would like to have all emails send in, read aloud at all meetings. This should not even be on the agenda at all. It should be up to the village president. He has told us he wants them read aloud. Please continue to read all comments sent in. Thank you for your time, the Schneiders. And those are the comments that were emailed in.
Thank you. We are now moving on to item 7, consent agenda. Item A, minute meetings, December 15th, 2025. And item B, an ordinance to amend section 9.01 of the Germantown Municipal Code related to offenses against state laws subject to forfeiture. Entertain a motion.
Move approval of consent agenda item A and B.
Second.
We have discussion. Trustee Jan Miller.
Where do I start? A is, one moment, please. Yes. Meeting minutes. I also wanted to, before I get to meeting minutes, we had a letter from Senator Dan Knoll, Representative Dan Knoll. Was that supposed to be read into the minutes?
I don't have a letter from Senator Knodel.
Clerk get it or not?
I do know he sent a letter. I don't know if he wanted it to be read. Just says, thank you for taking the time and sending this email to our village board members. So based on that, he didn't ask for it to be read. So,
Wasn't sent to the comments either.
I'm sorry?
Wasn't sent to the comments.
No, it was just sent directly to each village trustee. So,
Okay. Regarding the meeting minutes from the 15th, I was wondering, in announcements and forthcoming events, we have a sentence that says trustees announce dates and times of upcoming meetings. Is it possible to just put like GGF and then a date and then public safety PS and a date? Is that possible? Then we have something on record.
if we could do that,
Thank you.
I'll work with the clerk's office on that. Thank you.
And then the other item is for related offenses, right? So there were, Brian, can you, Brian, I'm not going to guess. You probably put this together, and is that correct?
Somebody in my office did, yes.
Okay. So what I saw was the item number in for that, whatever it is. And all it is lined out or underlined, and that means a change. But was there any way to find out if the actual body and the text was changed in any way? Or are you saying that just those numbers changed? That's what I wanted to know.
In the ordinance that's in the packet, the only thing that changed was either the section number that was adopted or the title of that section. There was no substance changes based on what we did other than just matching the code with what the statute says. Whether there's been any changes in the statute that would change anything, that I don't know off the top of my head. We'd have to look at each individual one. But that's not something we control. We're just adopting that provision locally.
Okay, so as long as we get the number right and the description right, we should be all right?
Correct.
All right, I'm all right with that explanation. Thank you.
Okay, further discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. We are now on to item 10, new business. Item A, a contract with Short Elliott Hendrickson, SCH, for design and construction inspection services related to the Fire Station 2 remodel and expansion. Administrator Krecklow.
We have a couple of presentations. First of all, Fire Chief Delane and Battalion Chief Holmes are going to give a little bit of background, and then we do have the consultant here that has a presentation if the board would like to see it on a little bit of their background and expertise on this type of work.
Good evening, everybody. This has been a process that's been going on for about 2 years now. To refresh everybody's memory, we kind of started out with we need to expand. How do we need to expand? Do we need a second station? Do we need to expand our current station? We went out for an RFP to get a design firm to kind of give us a space study with that. The space study came back with 2 different versions of, actually 3 different versions of what could happen. how much we would need to remodel one station, what would it look like if we added a second station, and what it would look like if we were to have a combined public safety facility. With that in mind, at the direction of this board, we were approved to look at remodeling and expansion of our current fire station. A budget was assigned to us of about $6.5 million. We went back for an RFP to get that process going with some design work with an architectural firm. We had 11 firms reach out to us. 7 firms responded to the RFP. From that RFP, we went through a scoring process with members of the department and some members of Public Works. From that, we went on to a interview with the firms that came within the top, and the fire department ultimately selected Short Elliott Hendrickson. We felt that they had the history that we were looking for, the knowledge with fire stations, the background that we were looking for, and ties to the community, which we felt were very important. With some more information on this process, Battalion Chief Holmes is going to go through a little presentation on some of the attributes of it, and when he is finished, we will have the representatives of Short, Elliott, and Hendrickson do a presentation as well.
Good evening. Thank you, Chief Delane, for the intro. And kind of going back a little bit also, this project really extends back to 2018 when the decision was made to close out Station 1 due to the repairs and work necessary at that station to make it a full-time department. Since then, we've had multiple consultants come through, one in 2018 recommending additional space, again in 2023 with PRA, Grafe and Moore, and their space needs study. And this project develops off of both of those studies and continues the progress to make our department whole. Some of the reasons that we're here, obviously we underwent a staffing increase that was in 2024 with an approved referendum. During that time, there was discussion about staffing and space and making the space work, which is accurate, as we have been for several years. But there was really 2 separate issues at hand. There was a staffing needs issue and a space needs issue. Well, we decided that the staffing needs issue was more critical at that point and to increase our staffing, but it did not take away the space needs issue that was already existing and continues to exist. We've had several scope creep in the fire service. Since the early 2000s, there's any number of new hazards throughout the world, essentially. Lithium-ion batteries are probably the biggest one that we've seen most recently. They require new equipment, new apparatus, new techniques, new training, everything under the sun to tackle these new hazards. And those new hazards are taking up more space in our facilities. And then most recently, we've had experienced environmental issues within our station, air quality issues, and for the past several weeks now, a pest issue, and need to get those addressed through this process. So our goal with this project is to make sure that we have, we're able to best serve our community and tackle the emerging hazards in a facility that is safe for our responders. It says that same thing up there, but in a lot nicer way. Our priorities that we've been going through with the board over the last 2 years or so, firefighter health and safety, it's Chief Delane's job and my job and the other battalion chief's job to make sure that our responders are safe 24/7, whether that's on an emergency scene or in a station. Ideally, we would not like to have to worry about it while they're in the station. And this is going to address some of those problems, or all of those problems. Fiscal responsibility, and the representatives from SEH will talk about this more, but obviously being good stewards of taxpayer funds is critical, and evaluating life costs versus upfront costs versus what the future is going to hold, and trying to identify those different aspects. The 5-year needs of the department, we've discussed the possibilities of a headquarters station within the after 5 years of this project. Predicting the future is next to impossible. However, our staff has decades of experience and continues to go to every seminar under the sun that's available to make sure that we're able to stay up to date, and we'll be able to future-proof that, which ties into the last point as well. Limiting operational impact. We have one station. We aren't able to go anywhere. We have to make sure that whatever we decide to do here, we're able to continue responding to every emergency, every call that we get. And then the future-proof design I touched on already, but making sure that this is sustainable for the long term of the village. Project development, Chief Delane touched on quite a bit. In 2024, Grafe and PRA completed a needs assessment of the fire department. They presented the current needs and future needs of the department, and we and the board explored plethora of options as to how to best address those needs. Ultimately, the board directed staff to pursue an expansion and remodel of Fire Station 2 with future needs to be met by a subsequent headquarters station. We presented several programming designs. A program design is not a floor plan or a blueprint. It's just kind of a general overview of what we're seeing. And then also we had been told several opportunities through those programs of where we could improve on that. Some of those are the north versus east options, additional bays versus not additional bays, ability for future additions, survival live house demolition, and what functions are going to be at Station 2 versus a future station to limit any duplication of space needs. Preliminary costs. So in 2025, we budgeted $500,000 for design and architecture services, and the construction estimate cost from Moore Construction in August of 2025 was $6,585,199. That does not include the additional bays that were discussed later on as possible alternates to the project, and does include the 5-year needs scope. Throughout the phase 1 of the design process, the firm that the board selects will come back with numerous updated budgets and programs and designs to make sure that the board can stay apprised of the costs of this project. And the last thing on their project cost increases is the construction escalation year over year. They're estimated at 3 to 5% per year from the Moore construction in August of 2025. Our timeline, so ongoing, as I mentioned, we're going to present our updated budgets. This evening, we're presenting to you our RFP and recommendations from that RFP. And ideally, the village board would award a design contract this evening. In January, we would begin working on the design phases. Q1 of 27, begin construction bidding. Q2, expansion groundbreaking. And completion and occupancy in 28. And I apologize, I did not edit the last number. That would be 2033, if my math is correct, for the headquarters station. The design phases, I'm not going to go through each of these in detail. They are all in the RFP in a lot of detail. If you would be interested in reading it, they're posted on the village website. Generally, in phase 1, we're going to be working on data collection. The firm's going to come in, identify exactly what our station's needs, review any data that was previously collected and present to the board. Also receive stakeholder input. That would be from the public, the board, and staff that'll be working on this project. Phase 2 is the detailed design. They're going to take all of that data from phase 1, put it into blueprints and highly detailed designs down to where the light switches are, the HVAC will run. And during that time, we'll receive additional budget estimate updates. Lastly, phase 3 is construction administration. That is, during the construction of the project, the selected firm would come back, perform site visits, verifying the build quality, completion inspection, and warranty work. Our RFP process, again, Chief Delane kind of outlined this, so I'll cruise through it a little bit. But we did have 11 companies attend an informational session at our firehouse. They received information about the project as well as a tour of the station. After that, 7 companies ended up submitting proposals. We had a team of staff that reviewed each of the proposals, contacted references, and assigned points. We all did that individually and then met as a group and came up with the final total scores on the right side that you see there. Due to their high scores, Short, Elliott, Hendrickson, and Wendell were brought in for in-person interviews with the committee of staff. After the interviews, SEH came out with the highest score of 85.83. However, noting that they were also one of the higher priced contracts that was in the bids. SEH was willing to meet with staff and negotiate a more favorable price. And some of the negotiated services you can see there in that bullet point. The completed list of the negotiated services are also available in the agenda packet. The negotiated services should note that it did not alter the project as a whole. Most of them were minimal changes. The extension of the design timeline after discussing with the firm as well as other projects in the area, our design timeline was fairly unreasonable. So we had to extend that a few months just to make sure we could meet all of those deadlines. And here's the exact fee breakdown. You can see what the cost or the initial proposed fee versus the negotiated fee, as well as the reduction on the right-hand side there. Ultimately, all of that work leads to our recommendation, which is staff recommends the village board awards a professional services contract for Station 2 to SEH with a 10% contingency for a total of $499,400. As Chief Delane mentioned, SEH will give a presentation here following this. So if you have any questions for them, I'd ask that you hold that until their presentation. However, if you have any questions for Chief Delane or I, we'll take those.
So there was a item you called fee negotiation after you basically selected SEH and then you renegotiated their fee. Did you give the other firms an opportunity to do that?
No, we did not.
And was this, I wouldn't say it's an ultimatum, but if SEH couldn't reduce their fee, would you have still gone with them?
Yes, I believe we would have. Their product that they're able to deliver with their experience that they'll talk about in their presentation is essentially second to none in the public safety realm. And certainly they also were not outside of the other bids. I believe they were within $8,000 of the next bid, which was very close to the third bid. And an entire breakdown of each company's bids are included in the agenda packet as well.
I'm looking at the grouping looks pretty good in that regard, which means you had a pretty good, tight RFP. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Oh, Trustee Jan Miller?
We're going to hear, I don't see a picture in your presentation, but is this going to be a 1-story or 2-story building? Do we know?
So that's what this whole process is going to determine exactly what this building is going to look like, what it's going to house, and what it's going to do. We're going to work through with staff from multiple departments internally, as well as a numerous amount of staff from the selected firm to determine those factors.
And who would be our staff?
At this
Besides
point,
you.
at this point, we haven't determined 100% exactly who's going to be on that committee. However, certainly members from the Department of Public Works that are going to be handling the maintenance of the building,
Okay.
as well as staff from the fire department.
Sure.
The committee of members that was going through this also included a member from the finance department as well.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Further questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, with that being said, we have Trevor, Mark, and Brian from SEH to make their presentation. Through this presentation, you're going to be hearing terms like at-risk construction manager. That is another RFP that will go out that has not gone out yet. That is kind of the next step in the process as they start doing their thing. So when they talk about that, that part has not happened yet, but will shortly.
All right. Good evening. My name is Trevor Frank. I am a principal and senior architect with Short Elliott Hendrickson. I'll just do a quick introduction of myself. I've been practicing architecture 34 years, the last 20 years with Short Elliott Hendrickson as a senior architect. The last 15 of those 20 years laser focused on emergency services buildings. I've got a team of 4 people, and there's the only types of projects we work on are fire, EMS, police, 911 call centers, those types of things. There's another face up there that isn't with us tonight, Chuck Leipzig. He's our operational specialist. Chuck has 36 years of fire service experience. He retired as fire chief for the city of Kenosha about 4 years ago. We did 2 fire stations for him, and upon his retirement, he came to work for us as an operational specialist. What that means is he'll be involved in conversations with the fire staff about what the department is today, what it looks like in the future, to make sure that, as Battalion Chief mentioned, that we are future-proofing this facility. Brian?
Brian Depius, Client Service Manager with SEH. Resident of Germantown since 2003, been on a Park and Rec Board since 2007, been chairman the last several years, so have constant engagement with staff, with elected officials and others in Germantown. So just another resource through SEH, really leave it up to the experts, but just wanted to be a part of the meeting, part of the team.
I'm Mark Zvidkowitz. I'm a project manager and architect with SEH. I've been with the company for the last 14 years, working with Trevor on the public safety buildings. And additionally, the last 13 years, I have been a Village of Germantown firefighter as a paid on call.
Just briefly want to go through our extended family. This is our project team. This is the team that we assembled for your project. The reason we assembled this team for your project, one, is based on their experience. The green and the purple bars are team members that we've worked with over the last 20 years on emergency services buildings. R.A. Smith is our civil engineer, and MSA Professional Services is our mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineer. I want to call your attention to the very far right of that organizational chart. We also brought in envelope consultants. They are forensic engineers that specialize in sick buildings, and your fire station has some moisture mitigation issues that we want to address head on early on in the design process. So STR, SEG, our forensic engineers will be engaged with us early on.
When we were reviewing your RFP and just knowing from the operations of the facility itself, we were able to identify 6 keys to success for your facility. We're going to run through in the slideshow all of these 6 items, but just so you know, this is it. We shortened the list. We knowing we're trying to be efficient with your time. We know it's going to get late, and we didn't want to take up as much time as we did with the interview committee. The first item that we focused on that we feel is a key is the use of the construction manager. Was our understanding the village had decided to go with a construction manager approach. And so as that will be upcoming, we feel like that's obviously an important key. We do work with construction managers and without construction managers. But really what it is having that collaboration, that team effort all the way through, especially at the 30, 60, and 90%. We want to make sure that these plans are meeting the budget as previously mentioned. Budget's obviously critically important. We know a shovel doesn't go on the ground unless the number matches your budget. In addition to that, we'd be assisting with the bidding services and construction administration services. Something that we wanted to highlight is that just because you went with that construction manager approach, it doesn't mean that you're going to see a reduction in our services. We would still be there through design, bidding, and through construction, answering RFIs, reviewing shop drawings, approving the pay applications. So just so that you were aware that it wasn't like we were going to hand over a set of drawings on bid day and then you're on your own. The second item that we wanted to bring to your attention as being a key focus area was the need for this to remain operational. As Battalion Chief Holmes had mentioned, the Station 2 is the only operational fire station within the village and has been for the past 6 years, I believe it is now. 6, no more than that. Now it's more, it's like 7. So this is not something that is uncommon for us. A lot of times when we're doing renovations, the staff has to remain in quarters, and Germantown is no different. It does not have the ability to brown out the station and operate out of a different facility. So the 2 examples that you're seeing on the screen, the photos are of Kenosha Fire Station 7. Similarly, they had the sick buildings that we had to address. but they remained in quarters throughout. And then the plan on the bottom is a phased construction that we're looking at for the town of Paris, Wisconsin, where we're building an addition onto the facility so that the staff can move over into the new facility into that additional space, and then the existing facility can be renovated. And we see that as a very similar approach that would likely be taken for for our building. Now, the third reason is because why we're all here is that we've grown beyond the walls of this facility. As you can see, we have spaces that are doing double duty. We've got training leading into the living quarters and vice versa. There's bunks being put into office spaces, which from what I have to do on a daily basis, I would say is questionable from a code perspective at the very least. I think if there was a code official reviewing that would not be allowed. Secondly, on the right side, you're going to see that that's our workroom. It's our SCBA fill station, and that is also our decon extractor for our turnout gear. Those are 3 different services, and those should not be combined into one tiny space. So the facility was built 25 years ago. It's when we had another station. Over that time, I think when it was built, it was the department operated differently. It had a different structure than it does now. I think it has operated as a lifeboat, but it has now exceeded its expectations, and some effort, whether an addition, renovation, it needs that extra look. As I mentioned, that Kenosha Station 7, this is an example of what we had to do, where we had to do some exploratory demolition to view what was going on with the exterior walls. They had similar moisture issues that you're dealing with, and you can see how we had to tent off the inside. So again, that's where that STR-SEG component is going to come in. They're kind of going to be able to advise us so that we make sure that any recommendations that we're doing and carrying forward with is good for your station for not only today, tomorrow, but also for 5, 10 years, 20 years down the line.
The other key focus area, we understand, as Mark mentioned, that you have a budget for this project. And we know that if we don't stay within this budget, the shovel doesn't go into the ground. So what we did was we compiled some representative examples merely to show that this firm pays attention to the budget and we're good stewards of community dollars. 85% of our work is repeat business from clients where we've either done 1 or more fire stations for them. And the key takeaway here is that we are working in some cases with a construction manager, others with our own professional cost estimators, but keeping our eye on the cost at 30% of the design, 60% of the design, and 90% of the design. So there's no surprises, if you will, as we go out for bid on these projects. I'm going to just walk you through a very quick case study. This is a project that just bid prior to Christmas. We are working with a construction manager on it. It is for the village of Little Chute, Wisconsin. At 30% of the design, we were tracking at about $8 million. The construction manager said, yeah, we're hovering right at about $8 million. We wanted to make sure that we had enough contingency dollars after the bids were open to provide things like fixtures, furnishings, and equipment for the fire department. You'll note that at 60%, that estimate went up because we had more detail, we had more lines on the paper, we had more integration and coordination with the construction manager. We're getting very close to that $8.5 million number. None of us around the table, including the village administrator, was comfortable with us being that close to that $8.5 million because we didn't know, with volatility in the construction markets, where those numbers were going to come in. So we built in some alternates. So we had some alternate elevations, some fenestration details for metal panel versus an all brick fire station. We had the training tower as an optional alternate. And then we also looked at, because there were some donor dollars involved in this project, they felt strongly that it was right across from a grade school. They did not want an on-grade stormwater detention pond. So we looked at a feature to put the stormwater underground. So we built those 3 levers in, if you will, that we were able to pull should the bids come in high. As I mentioned, the bids were open just before Christmas. The hard bid construction dollars were $7.6 million. And with a 10% contingency for the FF&E, so we're tracking right about at that $8.5 million all-in project cost. As Mark mentioned, working under existing conditions with the fire department being operational and not browning them out is something that we're familiar with. This is a project we are currently working on right now. It's in Neenah, Wisconsin. It's fire station number 31. It's a complete gut job and renovation to an existing firehouse along with an expansion. So very similar in scope to what Germantown is going to undertake. The picture on the right that you see there, they're firefighters that are still in quarters. This is a full-time professional fire department. So they have 4 staff out of this building 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So you can see some of the practices that the contractor is undergoing and taking in terms of safety to keep firefighters as they're responding to the apparatus floor safe from falling into what could potentially be trip hazards in the station. Fortunately for this particular station, there is a demising wall halfway through the building. So we moved firefighters into what used to be the administrative wing. So they've got a general population bunk room with beds right next to each other in what used to be the conference and training room. There was a small break area. We moved a residential range in there temporarily so they could cook their meals in there. And they're living on the other side while the contractor's working from 6:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. So, and one of the biggest challenges that we have, as you can see in that upper left corner, that's the garage door that for the returning apparatus. Contractor's got to keep his stuff out of the way on a daily basis and be mindful of the fact that this is an operating fire station. So the biweekly owner-operator contractor meetings discuss safety first as a first priority. And every week there's discussions about how we can continue to keep the fire department operational and safe and efficient. When we interview for these projects, as Battalion Chief Holmes said, they interviewed a lot of firms. 7 people put proposals together for this. We're always asked, well, we've got some good proposals here. Why should we hire SEH? And really for us, this is all we do. This is our passion. And we are proud to serve those who serve. Me personally as an architect and having done this for 15 years, specifically in emergency services buildings, I'm proud to design facilities that keep first responders, first of all, safe, and second, give them a second home, right? They spend 1/3 of their lives in the fire station. They deserve a second home. So that's where the passion lies for me.
Mine is somewhat obvious. I get to do the fires. I'm in the fire service both day and night. Having served on another fire department before Germantown. So I put in 17 years. I've been a firefighter as long as I've been an architect. It's truly what I love to do. And I like to be able to bring helpful and logical solutions to other departments, both in our community and the surrounding area. And I'm sure Chuck would have, he dedicated his entire career to the public safety industry. So I don't think that there's any question about why he enjoys doing what he does. And then just at the end, why we feel that we're the right team. Between Brian, Trevor, Chuck, and myself, we have a deep, not only local, but also operational fire service knowledge. We tailor our solutions to each community. So, we're doing West Bend's fire station. We're working in Paris or Kenosha. It doesn't matter. You're going to get Germantown's fire station. I'm not going to bring you somebody else's and just say, well, this is what we did there and it's going to work perfect. So it's important that this be your fire station. We have, I would guess you'd call us a proactive, accessible project management. I live a mile away, and unfortunately or unfortunately, you're going to have boots on the ground type of project management. And we're committed to the long term. As Trevor had mentioned, 85% of our work is repeat clients. We're not into just having a quick sale and get out of town. I'm not looking to move, so we really can't afford for it to go bad. Yeah. That's all. Is there any questions?
Questions for Mr. Bob Warren?
Thanks for the presentation. What would you say is the biggest unknown on this project?
Knowing how deep of the what we're gonna need to do on the health of the building, be my aspect. We kind of have an idea of what some solutions might be, but, until we have STRSG come in and really verify those numbers and come up with a solution, that'd be the biggest variable, the unknown variable.
You're talking about the mold? That's kind of where I'm leading with this question. What kind of contingency do you have built into this proposal to address whatever the mitigation is for the mold issue?
So in the proposal, for the design services portion of it, not the remediation portion of it, but for the design portion of it, we've had extensive conversations with STRSEG. They've been along with us on the Kenosha project that, quite frankly, based on my visual observation and inspection without doing any demolition, selective demolition, you don't have near the issue that we saw down in Kenosha. We wanted to make sure that before we put a proposal in, that there wouldn't be surprises like, oh gosh, we didn't really know that existed. We're well informed because of Mark's association with the department, but also some of the information that we received before we submitted a proposal, so that we were expecting basically the worst on developing a solution. Now, what happens with remediation, that's why we're recommending, we haven't gotten to the point where we've done a cost estimate yet, but when we do our cost estimate, we'll already understand what some of those challenges might be. Not having opened up every single wall, we'll recommend a contingency be added to the project just in case of a worst case scenario.
That's always what scares me on these projects. You never know with this water mitigation and mold and things like that. At least that's what concerned me when I was on your side of the dais.
Yeah, and so that's why that's our first order of operations is discovery. And it's not only the discovery of the sick building issue, but it's also geotechnical issues. We understand in conversation that there's some pretty high bedrock out there. We don't know how high, we don't know where, but that could also determine whether or not the expansion goes to the east or the expansion goes to the north. We're going to drill in both of those locations to determine the path of least resistance, to see what that looks like too.
Well, in Germantown, just assume it's everywhere. Thank you.
Trustee Warren, my assumption is that we built into the overall construction plan, new roof, new glazing, and also new HVAC, which go a long way in mitigating any future mold. Now, referencing existing mold, my assumption is we've already mitigated that from a remediation standpoint. Not going into walls, of course, but.
We have taken steps to improve the air quality inside the building with air scrubbers, ultraviolet lights, ductwork cleaning, cleaning of some of the ventilation. We've done a significant amount of work.
But again, am I correct in saying that I've heard comments from you in the past that the glazing is poor, HVAC is poor. So the assumption is that over the overall construction plan, we're getting new HVAC, new glazing, and definitely new roof. Because I'm going through the same challenge right now with one of my schools.
Right. All that will be addressed.
Okay, great. Can you put the slide up, that overall slide on costing that addresses FF&E as well? And I think it was on your presentation.
Oh.
But Trustee Warren, when I was on the school board side, we had an owners committee overseeing about $100 million in infrastructure improvements in all of our 6 schools. And you don't know what you don't know. And that's why you have, as you know, that's why you have the 10% contingency. But when you start tearing down walls and ceilings and you see a whole bunch of ductwork there or electrical, it's going to cost a little additional dollars. And then you got to make a decision in terms of where you get those dollars. You take it from FF&E or you take it from someplace else. So that's where it's critical. You have I don't know if you're going to call it the owners committee or whatever, managing that.
One thing I just wanted to add while Brian is switching the laptops here to bring that slide up is this model for managing the project is similar to what we used for the DPW building. And just to kind of correct some comments too, that project came in over $1 million under budget. There were some change orders that were paid for out of the contingency, but if some of you have been on the board longer may recall, we actually transferred, I believe it was over $500,000 out of the contingency during the 2025 budget process to help keep the property tax levy down. So that was a very successfully managed project, I believe.
I think it's the previous couple slides. Do you have, Chief Delane, do you have FF&E in your budget on this? Is that part of the 6.5 million? Is it?
Yeah, I can say that was
Okay.
from the, those were numbers that were put together by the Grafe PRA Moore team, and they did include all project costs, including FF&E.
Great, thank you. Further questions? Trustee Jen Miller.
Thank you for your presentation. Thanks for coming in. I'm very excited to get a new home for our fire people, EMS. They did a great job. So since I'm not an architect, you put up a couple of construction of houses in Little Chute, Neenah. You showed some from Kenosha, but I think you said that the Little Chute was completed now?
Bids were just received. The bids were received just before Christmas. We don't even have a shovel in the ground yet. The
Okay.
construction manager is still writing the subcontracts with all the suppliers, vendors, and subcontractors.
Well, you also had a chart of all these, I don't know if they were completed or not, but how close you came to the actual cost. Were all of those completed?
Those were all completed, some as far back as 8 years ago.
Okay. So do you have a recent example of a completion that was on that list that you could walk us through? I want to understand, once you make up this beautiful plan, mitigate all the mold and whatever, and then put it together, I want to understand how long it takes to build it.
Well, the renovation project that we're working on in Neenah, which is very similar to yours,
Right.
roughly the same amount of square footage of renovated area and
Which is how much?
that project.
Square much?
How many square feet?
Yeah.
That project is just under 20,000 square feet, 17.
Okay, we'll just round it up to 20. Okay, thanks.
And that project, I'm sorry.
Half new construction, half remodel.
That's correct. But it's probably like 75, 25, 75 remodel, 25 new construction. And to answer your question, Trustee Miller, it was that the contract was written for 330 calendar days for construction for that particular project. So it's almost a year on the calendar from the time that the contractor is under contract until it's complete. Now, there's a couple of moving parts on Neenah that you wouldn't have here. There's also a Fire Crown training area that has a live burn facility, so it's training tower. And it's got a cold storage building component to it also that has to be built so that we can put reserve apparatus into the cold storage building while the apparatus bay is getting renovated, because they'll only be able to operate one truck out of there while we're stiffening bar joists, replacing concrete floor, putting in floor drains, all that sort of thing.
Okay. So you're saying 330 days, calendar days. Is that working calendars? Or are we talking like it took a year, or are you talking Monday through Friday?
It's calendar days. So if the contractor decides he wants to work on Saturday and Sunday, he's got every Saturday and Sunday within that 330-day period to work.
Okay.
And I can tell you that, so the contractor wanted to accelerate the schedule. This is probably too much information, but the contractor wanted to accelerate that schedule because he wanted to turn it over on 9/11. The building over to the fire department on 9/11.
Sure.
So he abbreviated the schedule such that they could deliver that. But we gave them by contract 330 days. I can tell you that they're working Saturdays now
Yeah.
because they want to turn
Sure.
it over early.
Sure.
But they have the option to work those days or not work those days.
Okay.
But they have 330 days. And then liquidated damages kick in. So it's $1,000 a day for every day that the fire department's not in there past that 330 days.
Yeah. So there's an incentive.
There's an incentive to have them finish. There isn't an incentive to get done early.
Early.
We aren't going to pay them if they get done early.
No.
It's contract amounts the same, but
Right.
they get penalized if they're late.
Penalty. Mhm.
Yes.
So, so my understanding is you're pure architect, is that right?
That's correct. We are architects.
Okay. And
We
so,
don't swing hammers. We do construction management, but we didn't we didn't propose on that, and we won't propose on that when it goes to RFP. We feel our value to the village is helping you write that RFP for that construction manager, help you interview that construction manager, and then work alongside that construction manager. So there's no conflict of interest or perceived conflict of interest. There's a bright line between the architect, the owner, and the CM. That's how we're operating in Little Chute, Wisconsin as well.
okay. Thank you for explaining that to me. I appreciate that. Oh, my big question is, I saw on one of the graphs a timeline, and it said that this timeline said Phase 3 construction was happening in 2027. And my concern is that I toured the fire department. I was shocked. I didn't want to stay in it very long. I was afraid of the mold. And I felt like I was back in college. Anyway, it's a real problem stacking people on top of each other and being, as you said, Mark, you're sleeping in kind of an office area, which is, all right. So I think that it is 2026, yes, but is 2027 too far away?
Well, that was one of the regulations in the original RFP was an accelerated design phase. And when we interviewed for the station and the project, we explained the sort of the natural progression of that design phase and the involvement that we need from everyone, from the architects through the engineers, and now specifically, with our envelope issues, that if this was a standard process for design, we probably could accelerate it, but this is a messy project. There's an addition, there's a renovation, and we're dealing with a sick building. So what we recommended was tap the brakes, let's do this right, spend the extra time, which ultimately ended up saving the village a little bit of money because we really had to ramp up personnel wise to meet that, right? So we're throwing everybody with the kitchen sink at that thing in a shorter duration. This way we're able to space it out. We don't have to have as many people involved as early on, grinding out the plans. And that was our recommendation. Now, granted, yes, we see this in every department. Neenah was no different. West Bend was no different. They're living in these stations that aren't incorporating the best practices for the day that they operate in. But at the end of the day, we're not rushing this and taking our time and doing it right seems to be a better option than rushing into something and then having regrets after the fact. We want all voices heard. We want all input. We want all discovery made so that we can make a holistic design. We don't want to skip any steps in the beginning just to get heads in bed sooner.
And with approval, a possible approval tonight, will you get started on this right away?
Yes, that's a goal. we would have already set the kickoff meeting once the contract is signed and in place. We've worked with the village attorney on the language. We're basically good to go in terms of when signatures hit the page. Like Mark said, he lives a mile away. There's no excuse why he can't host a kickoff meeting immediately, right? He's got to go back to that department when he volunteers, so they'll be like, hey, Mark, when we kicking this off, right?
I say, God bless you. Thank you.
Trustee Peeper.
Okay, I like you guys. I trust John's decision-making process. I think he did a very great job vetting all of the prospects for this. I definitely would like to go with you guys. My only concern is, again, like I mentioned during public safety, the cost of this renovation versus building new. The Jackson, our neighbor right here, they built the village hall, fire and police station, one building, over 30,000 square feet, and it was 8.1 million. Granted, this was in 2021, it opened, and you add 3 to 5%. Okay, so we're at 10 million. So do we spend 6 million to renovate a current building, or do we spend 10 million and get something much, much better? That's my concern, is the cost of the renovation versus building new. I, like I said, I would love to go with you guys, but I would like to explore some other options and really pick your brain about what it would look like to build a new building. Yeah, you need land, but I do know of a piece of land that a farmer is looking to unload in the heart of Germantown, and his father was a firefighter.
I don't think we're in a position right now to pivot or deviate from the motion or the action that we're taking tonight. I do know that based on your timeline, you're looking for a possible headquarters station in 5 years, which may or may not happen because standing in line after this is a new police station. So there's significant debt that will be incurring, and I don't know if there is appetite for that. All I'll say, Trustee Peeper, is that we touched, when I was on the school board, I need to go back and revisit that because we touched 6 schools, and we did have discussions about building a new school, and there wasn't appetite for that within the community because of the costs associated with that. So we touched all 6 schools, bless you, at the very same time. And was it challenging for our kiddos? Yes, it was, but they're very resilient, and our staff, they did a wonderful job. So I have no concern that the fire department staff is going to do anything different than that. You guys are very resilient. You know what you're doing. You're very professional. So I've got no concern over that. So having a discussion about, pausing this and.
I'm not saying pause.
Okay.
That was not my intention.
Okay.
I know this needs to get moving. I completely agree with you. I'm just saying, I respect these people. They have extensive experience, particularly in the area of public safety buildings. I think we just need to explore more options. I want to hire them right now, but I want to explore more options with them.
Gotcha.
We can continue moving forward, but can we broaden their horizon and ask them
I think we
have
could.
any better ideas?
I think we could have a separate conversation outside of what we're talking about now. But I don't think we need to.
Well, this is where I would need to say it because this is the only place that I can bring it up
Sure.
publicly.
Gotcha. Okay. Further discussion, questions of the consultants here? Okie dokie. Thank you very much. Great job.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
I'll entertain a motion.
A motion to approve.
I'll second.
Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, please. Roll call. That's right. Thank you.
Trustee Warren,
Aye.
Trustee Cutts,
Aye.
Trustee Baum,
Aye.
Trustee Jane Miller,
Aye.
Trustee Borst. Aye. Trustee Peeper.
Aye.
Trustee Rick Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Kaminsky, President Satterberg.
Aye. That motion carries. Congratulations. Great job. Moving on to item B, a resolution disallowing the claim of Melissa Recor. Administrator Krecklow.
Actually, I'll turn this over to the village attorney.
Sure. So before you is just a standard resolution denying a claim. The claim basically centers around some activities from the police department who entered into a chase of a vehicle. The driver of that vehicle chose not to stop at the intersection of Dundas Bay and Division, went through the intersection and ended up crashing into a tree, causing harm to the daughter of the claimant. We've investigated the claim, insurance company has investigated the claim, and has recommended denial. And so that is what is before you this evening.
We have discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. We are now on to item C, an ordinance to amend Chapter 2 of the municipal code related to rules and regulations for the governing body. Administrator Cricklow.
This one I'll turn over to the village attorney as well.
Sure. So before you this evening is a proposed amendment to Chapter 2. The amendments, as you probably have, many of you have heard me say, we're coming at some point to kind of clean up the chapter, really to address the issue of electronic appearances, in essence, post-COVID, under the rules and regulations that were established. We really, if we're going to continue to allow for virtual appearances, need to update the code to reflect that. As part of the discussions related to that, the suggestion was made that maybe we don't want to allow trustees to appear virtually at all. And so as a result, the original version of the draft basically just took us back to the pre-COVID standard, which meant that we were not going to allow for any trustees to appear virtually. We did add the possibility that staff or consults that are coming from a distance, for example, could potentially appear virtually, because we do have the capability of doing that. In addition to that, since we were touching the code, we cleaned up other provisions that have been somewhat problematic. We updated the language related to how we deal with the consent agenda. That's really primarily at the request of the clerk's office, who was having a difficult time with the numerous motions of, things get pulled and then you're having an additional motion, but we already had a motion, and it just became difficult for them to kind of follow along, in particular with the new, or not new anymore, but at the time, the new clerk software, Civic Clerk, and the process of using that. So cleaned up that process. And then the last provision was just the provision that talks about how you deal with citizen comment, in particular written citizen comment, but also just generally establishing some rules and guidelines related to comments in general. And again, drafted it basically to take us back to what we did before COVID, which was generally comments were not read. They were either provided at the dais or they were emailed to individuals, and that's there. And that's that. The committee basically said, we're going to need everybody's input on this. They didn't feel comfortable, I think, addressing everything on their own, but they did direct that they wanted to see, instead of no trustee appearances virtually, to allow for 2 trustee appearances, which is basically the version that you see before you this evening. So happy to answer any questions.
Before I open it up, this was my idea to put this on the agenda for discussion. It was basically the virtual call-in for trustees. That was, I proposed that. And then when it came out for GGF, there was a couple other things that were out there. And we heard public comments tonight about infringing on our First Amendment right, which I'm not at all concerned about. By doing this, I don't think we would be. And we heard comments about not reading emails. I guess my expectation is, and I'm speaking to the choir, that all village trustees are prepared for their role for this evening. And that includes a whole bunch of things, not only reviewing the agendas, reviewing the background, but also reviewing any emails that come in. So I don't even want to bark up that tree and say, did you read the emails that you got? So my expectation is that you have read them all. So I would welcome further conversation on this, but if we're going to, and I want to take action on this, but I would welcome splitting it up because on the one about the email communication and the other on the virtual. So trustee Pieper.
Attorney Sajak, do I need to make a motion to divide the question?
Do you need to? No. Can you? Certainly.
Okay, I make a motion to divide the question
All right. And how are you going to divide the question?
by the two different things. The one.
Technically have
reading
more
the
than two.
emails in the comments, and the second one about peering virtually.
Well, but you have the changes that relate to the consent agenda, and then there's a couple other additional comments or changes just to clarify some of the wording. So is the intent that you basically want to take the reading of the comments separately and everything else together? Is
Great.
Can I have a second? Okay, perfect.
Can we take a vote on that?
correct on the
Yes.
motion
Okay.
too. Yeah.
Discussion? We have discussion.
I have,
Regarding dividing the question?
yes,
Trustee Jen Miller.
I can.
Well, we've got a motion right now.
Right.
So any discussion on the motion of dividing the question?
Yes, I think that it is more than one thing. A lot of other things were put into this since we looked at it. There were 4 things, and now there's consent agenda. Maybe it was in there, I don't remember, on GGF, but it was, there's a lot. It wasn't as detailed as the verbiage in the packet. It wasn't. So all I'm saying is there's a lot more information. Just for an example, if you going to the virtual meetings, you can miss 2 village board and 2 of the major committees. What is it called? Standing committees. And what's wrong with the other committees? What does that mean?
But we got to divide the question.
Well, I'm saying it's very detailed, and not only on that point, but on the other ones, I think.
Trustee Jen Miller, the question at hand is strictly to divide the question. Now, when we're going to be discussing whatever motion we're going to be discussing, you have an opportunity to do a deep dive on at that time.
Okay.
Trustee Baum.
That vein, if I want to talk about each of the 4 topics thoroughly, do I need to divide the question 4 ways instead of just 2 ways?
No.
One is emails and the other 3 are a second.
The only thing dividing the question does is that you're going to vote separately on the components that you do. Now, whether that's 2 or 3 or 4 or 18, that doesn't matter. It's just that's all you're doing is just dividing it into pieces that you're going to vote individually. You can comment on the components as much as you're allowed to.
So the based on my understanding, Trustee Pieper, you're dividing the question. The first would be the email communication,
Correct?
and then all 3 others would be in the second.
Correct.
Okay, great. Further discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. We are back to yes, Trustee Pieper.
Yeah, so I want to discuss the first part of the question we just divided. So I just have a question for the board here. Were there any emails that were read out loud during the comment section that you have not read before it was read out loud? So we've all read these emails before it's being read publicly. Is it, yes, yes,
Yes?
yes, everybody? So then I think that eliminates the concern that the trustees are not reading the emails, and that's why it needs to be read publicly. I completely understand the point that some people want their emails to be released publicly or read publicly. I think that can be solved. Sarah Larson made a suggestion that it's included with the minutes. So anybody can pull it and read it if they would like. And then it would eliminate the reading of the emails because we're all reading them already, and it would be public for anybody else to read. So I make a motion to include all of the emails that are sent to comments included in the meeting minutes, and then not having them read.
We divided the
Yes.
question. We don't have a motion.
That's my motion.
Oh, this is it?
This is my motion to approve this, but have the emailed comments included in the meeting minutes. Yes, and then not read publicly.
I'll second that.
Do we have discussion? Trustee Cutts.
I will vote no for that just because I feel they should be read. We are all reading them, but I think we're acknowledging publicly that we are reading them and these people's opinions are being heard. They might not be able to get here because they're out of town or something else. So, and I don't think it takes up that much time to add the amount of people that do write in.
Great. Trustee Baum?
So for me, it's not a time extension issue. It's just how do we get the information out there? And to read it during a meeting or to have the comments section an open forum that you can put all your comments out there. Your comments are getting out there. People can comment on your comments. I would rather have the emails put somewhere where everybody can go and see them, as opposed to reading them here where we don't even talk about them. Barely do we talk about them after they're read.
Trustee Jan Miller?
I would not support this. I think it's very important that all of the comments get read, whether people can, they don't want to talk, they can't make it, they're unhealthy, whatever the reason. It's their way of putting in a comment. This village board should not be the only residents that get to see other people's comments when they're taxpayers and we're taxpayers. And this is part of the transparency. And so I think it should just be read. And as far as listing them in the minutes, we used to put like a little paragraph of what any of the citizen input said. And then we had the clerk's office come back, you can correct me if I'm wrong, and say, oh, it's too much trouble to write a little, this person talked about the budget and why we should have comments written, read out loud. It got to be too much. And I don't want to go through that. And if you're going to publish every single comment, the entirety, then you've created an enormous minutes. It went from 6 pages to 20 pages. I'm just saying that's what could happen. So just read it because it's relevant. These people are writing in because there's something on the agenda that's making them want to make a comment. So we want to be more open, more transparent. I don't know any other way to do that except sharing the residents' thoughts. And sometimes they're really good.
Trustee Borst?
Yep, I agree. I think for transparency, we need to read the emails. I think that reading them is basically the same thing as those people that are here and come up for public comment. If reading them is the same type of communication, it's just they can't be here and they can't be here for whatever the reason is, but their voice is just as important as if they were standing here. So for that reason, I think they should need to be continued to be read.
Trustee Rick Miller?
I think we're all going to weigh in, so my turn. I think it's redundant. We all get it in the comments. I agree with this, and I was going to make the same recommendation as to put it in with the minutes of the meeting tonight. I read the comments before, and then I have to listen to them again. Okay, not a big burden. I don't care about the time either, but to me, it's redundant and it's unnecessary. The people who want to read the other public comments will go to the minutes and read them. the people who care will go there and read them. So I think it is unnecessary to read them. The first, I'm going to say 8 or 9 years that I was on the board, we did not read public comments. Any emails or anything like that. It was only the people who came up here, but I'm not even sure we received them all. I think they were forwarded to us, but we didn't even have a comments email at that time. So I think that this is even better that we all get the comments email it's a distribution group, so everyone gets it within their email directly. And I support this motion.
Trustee Kaminsky?
I support the motion as well, as everybody knows. I actually think we reach more people by putting them in the minutes. How many people are actually watching us tonight, either on channel 25 or on YouTube? But, they can either go back into the minutes and actually see everything that anybody wanted to say to the board if they sent us an email. So, you're going to reach more people by doing it that way, not fewer. And so I totally think we should have the comments on file, let people see what's going on, but do not do it at the meetings.
Trustee Warren?
I totally agree with Trustee Kaminsky. I think it is a better record of their comments. It's just not verbalized during the meetings. And I think that technique it's not an issue about transparency. I just think it's been an issue of using that platform for personal agendas and that. There's been fortunately, some of the ones that weren't read attack certain trustees in their emails and that. So then you get down to the point, which ones do you read and which ones don't you read? So we might fall into that trap where we might have to filter some of these out. So I think it's a better record if they're in the minutes. If everybody knows that, that's where you can go to see the minutes.
Trustee Rick Miller?
Yeah, I got one more comment and to follow up with Bob's is that I've run into things where we limit our in-house comments here to 4 minutes. And I ran into it in GGF where I think I went 6 or 7 minutes on an email. And to me, that's a loophole, and I'm going to cut it off at 4 minutes if I have to read them, if this vote goes that way. I don't think that's fair to everyone else that's making them.
Trustee Cutts?
Well, when I look at the minutes for tonight, there was 3 comments from the last meeting, and it just says Sarah Larson submitted comments regarding new business item I, village staff merit increases. Tom Barney submitted comments regarding new business item C, Division Road 2024 trail plan update, etc. But it doesn't say what the comment was. So are you going to go into more detail then and put full comments?
It would be, their actual comments would be part of meeting minutes.
The email would.
Whatever they said, whatever they typed, whether it was sent to the comments or it was sent to all of the trustees, as a comment on an agenda item, their entire email would be attached to the meeting minutes packet. Yeah.
I guess, I belong to this chief elected officials group that meets quarterly up in West Bend, and it's a group of village presidents, mayors, et cetera. And I did my own unofficial benchmarking with a handful of those with my colleagues that I trust, and they don't read the email communications. I got a communication here from our representative, Dan Knodel. He says that at a minimum, the minimum we do at our committees is announce the constituent and their position on the legislation, either pro or con. Legislators can read the entire communication if they desire. I guess my position is I could go either way. I have no problem reading the email communication. The reason why I don't read them today is because I got frustrated reading 35 of them during one village board meeting. I'm not going to do that. So Administrator Kreklow, I appreciate you and applaud you for reading those. I do appreciate that. I will say that the frequency of the email communications coming in are trending down, which is a good thing. Depending on which way this goes, I would want to have the option of reading an email communication if I think it's prudent, if I think it's germane to what we're going to be talking about. But I have no problem. I mean, I read the emails that come in before a board meeting because I'm doing my job. That's what I was elected for, and that's what my constituents elected me for. Absent that, I'd be abdicating my responsibility. But again, I have no problem reading them. But I'm not going to be reading 35 of them, but I appreciate Administrator Krekel for taking that burden on. So further questions, comments? Let's take a vote. All those in favor of continuing to read? No, what was the motion?
The motion.
It would be all those in favor of having the comments attached to the meeting minute packets instead of being
In
read out
entirety.
loud.
Further discussion on that? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed?
Aye.
I opposed.
That motion passes. 5-4.
That motion passes. We're now on to the 3 items because we split the question, and they are the Brian, virtual meetings, the
Right, the virtual meetings, the changes to the consent agenda process, and then the couple clarification type things at the very end of the ordinance. Talk about like suspension of the rules and special committees are the other 2.
Okay, we had a motion to split the question. We had one motion which passed on the email communication, or which failed. Now we're on to the 3, so we have to have another motion on the 3, correct? I entertain a motion. Trustee Jan Miller.
I'll move to pull or just discuss the one that's on regarding, do we have to do it in order?
It'd be a
Then
motion
it
to
would be.
approve everything else.
No, I don't want to do that.
Well, you need to make a motion.
I
to be
want to make a
positive.
motion to divide the motion again and bring up the attending meetings virtually. Second. We
We
got
have a second. We have discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? 4 opposed. That motion carries. So we're now on to,
What the hell?
yeah,
Those that were opposed, please.
Opposed?
Just to make sure we are
She's
going to
dividing the
now
question.
discuss it.
No,
Yes.
she's dividing the question again.
Yeah.
Yes, they are opposed. Thank you.
so Trustee Jamo, do you want to make a motion on the virtual?
Yes. I like the idea of perhaps limiting, but I want to have a discussion about you're limiting having, you can only be on virtual for 2 village board meetings. And if I read this right, Brian, it says 2 standing committee meetings. So what's wrong with all the other committees? What happens then?
The same rules would apply. It's just that the language that this particular section is in really addresses trustees and the president because it's under the village board section. And so by default, the language just reads that it applies to trustees. So we craft it to talk about village board and primarily the standing committees, which you would be associated with. There is language within the code that I'm just trying to identify here specifically that does talk about the fact that the same rules basically apply to other committees. So the same types of things would apply to EDC or anybody else that has the
That's
capability.
a trustee.
Whether they're trustees or otherwise, any members of
Okay.
the other body
Well,
would be
that-
able to do that.
Well, thanks for explaining that. The other thing is, okay, let's say we have I can't make meetings And I missed 2 village board meetings and 2 GGF meetings. So now I'm at the 4. What are you going to do to me?
Me personally, I'm not going to do anything. What the board could do would be to seek to have you removed from office based on dereliction of duty, and that's the same rule that applies. Currently, we have a rule that dictates how many meetings you can miss just in general.
How many would that be?
3, I think, if I remember right. That. Same process would apply under the current rule as well.
Trustee Baum?
Yes. Thank you.
My concern with this is you would rather have me not attend a meeting than come in virtually. Because if I am traveling, we travel for business. If I am out sick, I only have 2 opportunities to come in virtually. You would rather have me not participate in the discussion. That is what I have a problem with by putting a limit on this 2 and 2. What happens if I had somebody here that had cancer. Didn't want to come in on a regular basis because he was afraid he'd die. Let him come virtually and participate that way. And I wouldn't care how many times he came in if it's that type of situation. But to say willy-nilly 2 times, I can't accept that.
Trustee Kaminsky?
I can accept it. What did we do before we had WebEx? We've only had WebEx since 2020. People were expected to show up at these meetings. That's what we're elected to do. And for people to think that they can come to these meetings, sitting on the couch via WebEx, unless they're ill or unless they have a serious issue, I think that's a non-starter. We're elected to be sitting in this chair, listening and taking whatever comes from that end and doing what we've been elected to do. Now, if it's a situation where somebody's traveling all the time, well, what the heck did you run for then? You got to figure that stuff out ahead of time. Cancer, obviously, if something like that would come up, but we'll address that if it comes up. But if it's something where somebody all of a sudden is going to takes a job where they're traveling all the time, well, then you need to step down and let somebody else take that position because you're expected to be here. That's what you sign up for. Just like you sign up for reading your emails and preparing for these meetings, you sign up for having your butt in the chair. And I think it's very generous to allow somebody to be able to not be here 2 times. I mean, that's my feeling. I mean, I was here once virtually because I was sick. Did I have to be here? No, but I thought it was important that night because of what we were voting on. But that, I think that we can have a little bit of leeway because we are blessed to have WebEx still. But to just think that you're going to be just phoning it in all the time, I don't accept that.
Yeah, I'll just say that we have a 9-member board and life does get in the way. I travel, we get sick, and it's okay not to show up. It's okay. I did not know until recently, a couple of weeks ago, that we do have, I don't know if it's a ordinance on attendance. I haven't looked at that, quite frankly. I know on the school board side, because we had some issues with some directors not attending meetings, we started taking attendance at every board meeting and every committee meeting. And we shared that with our peers. And it was more of a peer pressure to say, oh my gosh, the principal is watching us, I better show up. And it worked. I have no desire to go down that path. I'm not saying we have an issue with that. Don't get me wrong. But again, this is strictly about calling in on a virtual standpoint. I agree with you, Trustee Kaminsky. We were elected for a reason, to have our butts in the seat, and we should be here in front of our constituents. And again, if you don't show up, that's fine, for whatever reason. Whether you're traveling, whether you're sick, you've got a sibling that's sick, I get that. That happens. That's life. So, Trustee Borst?
Yep. I feel like the limit of 2 is a little bit rough, especially as a mom with a growing family. I feel like it limits the
I did not, no. And again, we don't even have a motion yet. We have a recommended motion or recommended language that could lead into a motion. So we could flex up from the 2 to whatever, 3, 4. Trustee Pieper.
I feel like this singles me out completely, and maybe that was your intention, Terry, because yes, I do appear via WebEx a lot. I travel for work. I'm probably gonna be out of the state at least 4 times in the year because I'm traveling for work. Does that mean I can't appear virtually in my hotel room by myself? Then what's gonna happen? Should I not even run then? Because I'm also a single mother of 5 kids. And I don't get to ship them off every other weekend to their father because he's not alive. So you put me in a very difficult position. If you don't think I should be in this seat, I would like to hear it. That because I'm a single mother of 5 kids and I'm not going to be able to make them all in person, that leaves no room for if my kids are sick. And my kids have been sick and I've had to appear virtually. So are you making me choose between motherhood and my trustee position?
I'm not making you do anything. I'm stating how I feel about what we signed up for.
Yeah.
It's not personal, and I don't think you should make it personal. I think it's totally inappropriate.
Well, I take this very personally because this highly affects me. And if I'm going to be removed from office, then shoot, I'm not even going to run again.
Trustee Jen Miller.
One of the provisions is that it's 2 times for the village board and 2 times for a standing committee. In my count, that's 4. So I think that's pretty generous. And then also the same on other committees. So actually 6.
Yeah, so it could be more than 4 because it would be for each standing committee. So if you are on 2 standing committees, for example, you would get 2 at the village board, 2 on GGF, 2 on public safety, for example. I do have to correct myself too. The language on the other committees isn't in this version because I do have another version because we're updating the other part of chapter 2 that deals with the other boards and commissions to just clean that up as well. And the language for virtual appearances is in there. I thought we had included it here, but it's not. But there is a draft that will be forthcoming here probably next month for the rest of the chapter 2 that we're going to update.
Why are they separate? Because it's for different committees?
Because the other change is more significant in terms of just the cleanup that needs to be done. Not that we're changing anything, but just to clean it up, clarify things. In terms of when terms start and end, and appointments and all of that kind of stuff. Just to clarify some of that stuff, and it was all going to be brought together in one ordinance, but I was asked to bring forward the electronic attendance component for the village board early, which is why they're separate at this point.
So again, we don't have a motion yet, but if someone wants to your point, Trustee Borst and Trustee Jan Miller, if you want to flex up on the number, so that creates the opportunity for you to call in virtually. But I just want to say that life gets in the way. People get sick. And we're elected for a reason to be here. But if you're not here for one particular village board meeting, I think people will understand that. So I'll entertain a motion. So
I'll make a motion to accept the verbiage as it is stated, which is 2 times for village board electronically WebEx, and 2 times for the standing committees. And the other portion will be forthcoming.
Trustee Baum, second that. Do we have discussion? Trustee Borst.
Yeah, I don't feel like, I don't know what the right number is. I don't know if it's 2 or if it's 5. I don't have a number, but I feel like if voters, if residents don't like that we're not in the seat and we are on WebEx, like they can decide. They cannot vote for us. They can vote us out, essentially. So I feel like putting a number on it is like I don't know what value to assign to it because we're deciding something that the voters and the residents should decide.
Well, originally I put 0. And then it was discussed at GGF and GGF flexed it up. So further discussion. Trustee Baum, seconded. No discussion. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. We are now on to the remaining 2 items. The part about the consent agenda and final changes clarifying the language related to the special committees and suspension of rules. So I'll enter, yes, Trustee Miller.
Could we do consent agenda? And could we get an explanation from Brian?
We could, could I make a recommendation?
Sure.
We combine the 2 and then during discussion, we'll get expansion. on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I make a motion to combine the 2 and approve them.
Okay, Trustee Baum seconded. Discussion, Trustee Jan Miller. Your question is?
My question is for the attorney. Could you please explain what you're trying to say in the consent agenda?
Sure. So the way that we've been doing it, other than just very recently after I kind of pointed out that Robert's rules kind of authorizes this otherwise, and President Soderberg has kind of adopted it. But the way that historically we had done it was you would have the consent agenda, there'd be a motion to approve the full consent agenda, and then somebody would pull an item.
Right.
And then once that item was pulled, you would then do a second motion once you dealt with all of the rest of the consent agenda. You do a separate motion on that one to say, I'm going to approve that one as well. That worked fine under the old version of the minute software, which was really just word typing in the documents in terms of, doing those motions and having it make sense in the minutes. When we switched to Civic Plus or Civic Clerk and doing the minutes through that software, the software isn't really designed to handle multiple motions on effectively your motion to approve initially because it's part of the consent agenda, and then you're doing a second motion to approve, and it just wasn't really set up to handle that well, and so we looked at ways to try to address that, and so what the solution is the kind of Robert's Rules approach where you basically are just considering that request to pull an item off of the consent agenda to be, in essence, a motion to divide the question, which then in turn means that you don't have to make that second motion to approve the item because it's already covered as part of the original motion to approve. And so it cleans up the minutes process as it relates to how Civic Clerk reflects the items as you move through. So under the proposal, you would have still the same thing, the motion to approve the consent agenda, all of the items. And then if there was a request to pull items to discuss them or to amend them or whatever the case may be, you would be able to do that. But if the intent was really just to discuss the item, you could do that without then having to make a motion to approve again because it's already been deemed to be made by virtue of that initial motion for the full consent agenda. Does that make sense?
So can you, but what if it doesn't pass? Like if you say, oh, we really don't want to spend that money now, boom, it's pulled. What happens to it
The,
then?
the same thing as if you would, and if it had been a freestanding item, if you make a motion to approve, and in fact, under Robert's rules, some folks would tell you that you can only make motions to
Right.
approve.
Right.
And so you could make that motion to approve and it would still get rejected because the vote doesn't pass.
Okay.
It's the same impact, the same result. It doesn't change any of that. It's just really a clarification of how we handle it for the minute purposes, and to just codify that in a way that I don't then need to explain, every time that we're going to do it, hey, this is what we're doing. I can just say
So the clerk
in essence, yes.
has redirected.
And if there's any confusion at the time of a motion, our village attorney will be here to make sure that we're
Of course.
stay within the guardrails. So
Okay.
trustee Warren.
Just a clarification for the attorney. On page 7, where you describe contents, the content agenda shall consist of, are you there?
I am there.
Okay, so if you read second last sentence, action of the board, including those items receiving unanimous approval from a standing committee. We don't need unanimous approval from a standing committee.
Historically, for consent agenda, the only items on the consent agenda have been things that had unanimous passage
Really?
at the committee level.
News to me.
Really?
Where have I been? Okay, thank you.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. And
What's the last one?
I believe we are adjourned at 8:56 PM. Thank you everyone for coming. And again, drive home safe and Happy New Year.
Some